Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm going to grab a seat, but I know that James is going to be
Might walk around a little
walk
bit.
around.
Well, yeah, first things first, thanks for coming, because we know somebody at Sports Pro scheduled a wine tasting at the same time as this presentation. So double thanks for being here. I'm James Clark. I run our media and entertainment division at GeoComply.
Yeah, and I'm Małgorzata. I work for the Polish top-tier football league, and I'm also responsible for OTT.
So we'll start with a video, since it's the afternoon and everyone's a bit sleepy, to explain a little bit about what we do at GeoComply.
Geopiracy moves fast around the globe, and it's getting harder to detect viewers pretending to be in a location different from where they really are, as technology makes it easier to fake your location. It's simpler than ever for pirate viewers to sneak access to content for free or share accounts. It winds up costing streaming services, online broadcasters, and rights holders billions in revenue every year. GeoGuard was built to help content businesses move faster than geopiracy, making it possible to detect and block pirate viewers, even those using hijacked residential IPs. Without a geopiracy solution, streaming businesses risk violating territorial licensing agreements, losing revenue, and increases in fraud. GeoGuard detects and blocks the most common and advanced location spoofing methods in order to uphold territorial licensing, free up capacity to serve legitimate users, and reduce credential sharing and account takeovers. It's also simple to implement, allowing streaming brands to simply turn on VPN and proxy blocking. Today, GeoGuard protects top streaming brands around the globe. With high accuracy and low false positives, GeoGuard is approved by leading Hollywood studios and sports leagues. Geopiracy moves quickly. We move quicker. Learn how GeoGuard can help you today.
You come to the right place. So we're a technology company, and our business is around using location to protect services, protect content, and fight fraud. And the big thing that we're going to talk about today is VPN-based fraud or VPN abuse. So I'm going to assume everybody in this room knows what a VPN is, but by way of show of hands, who's ever used a VPN? Pretty good. And keeping your hand up, who's ever used a VPN to watch video content? Okay, it's a pretty honest crowd. So looking at some numbers that we've got from Global Web Index, around a third of all internet users in the world use a VPN. So we're talking about roughly 1.5 billion people. And of those, just over half of them admit, at least, to using a VPN to access better entertainment content. So in other words, around 800 million people are using a VPN to access stuff online that they otherwise wouldn't be able to view. Talking about a huge number of people here that are just freely doing this all day, every day, and we're kind of turning a bit of a blind eye to this enormous population of illicit viewers who are tearing up long-standing business models around the world. So business models, what does it really mean? Ultimately, the rights holder business model is under threat. So very lucky to have Goja here today to give her perspective in a second. But I don't need to tell this room that sports rights are sold all around the world at various different prices. So for example, in the UK, English Premier League is much more valuable than it would be in, say, Turkey. And as such, the cost for the streaming service in Turkey may be considerably less to view that same content than it would be in the UK. Now with a VPN, you can just travel around and watch your favorite sport content for the price that you choose in the market that you want to watch it from. And it's not just sports. We also look at Hollywood content. It's the same thing. Any kind of big content, popular content, anything that anybody ever really wants to watch online is being targeted. And these VPNs very kindly advertise and promote how they will help you and guide you through to watch your favorite content across all these different services as easily as you'd like. So let's look at a couple of specific examples, and I'm pulling out here YouTube and NBA League Pass, but they're not the only ones. These are just two examples that kind of illustrate the point quite well. A little bit small on these screens for those of you at the back, but if you take YouTube, it's around $1 a month to subscribe to YouTube Premium in Argentina versus Switzerland, $17 a month. NBA League Pass, even more extreme. In the UK, around $280 a year to subscribe to their service, or about $15 a year to subscribe in India. Same great service, same great content. I know which one I'd choose. Then, to go a step further, if that's too hard to work out, or if you didn't know how to do that, you just go online and start Googling. And sure enough, you've even got a VPN provider here who are actively promoting how their VPN will allow you to view NBA at this much discounted price, and then go on YouTube, and there's a tutorial video, and they will walk you through step by step how to sign up for NBA at a fraction of the cost that you'd otherwise pay in your home country. And this is there, it's live, go and check it. We're allowing all this kind of promotional activity to take place on huge video platforms. YouTube's a pretty big one, where consumers can just easily go, find it, and again, we're talking 800 million people who are doing this all the time, all around the world. So I thought I'd take a little topical example with the World Cup and just see what kind of action is going on right now. And you'd expect probably with the World Cup, generally speaking, you can access it in your home country for free, but it's not always free, perhaps, and perhaps some services are better than others, so some broadcasters are doing a better job at delivering those games than others. So I went in Google Trends and typed in World Cup free VPN. Now, free is an interesting one here. I'm going to come back to this in a second. And when I ask you that question, have you ever used a VPN, think about whether you've ever used a free VPN, because it's a different kettle of fish. But you can see here's a huge spike around 2021 of November when people suddenly started looking for ways to watch the World Cup with a free VPN. In fact, when you type this in, you get about 14 million hits explaining to you how to watch the World Cup with a VPN for free. Then we took it a step further and we took a selection of FIFA licensees around the world, different streaming services, and just threw a bunch of VPNs at them to see how easily we could watch the World Cup with a VPN. And around 76% of the time, we could do it. In other words, it's dead easy. And these so-called territorial restrictions or geo-blocked services are not geo-blocked at all. You can just go wherever you want to watch the content. Now, the interesting thing with a free VPN, just on a side note, in that little video you may have heard the term residential IP. So most people who use a VPN tend to use a free VPN, but as we all know, nothing really in this world is truly free. So what happens with the free VPNs, in exchange for them giving you this little tunnel to watch your favorite content, you, perhaps inadvertently, are giving them your IP address, and in some cases a portion of your bandwidth, which seems fairly innocent, perhaps you don't even know it, somewhere buried in the T's and C's. Anyway, what goes on in the background is that VPN then resells your IP address to the highest bidder, and generally that's going to be to some kind of shady activity. So if you think about people online who want to conceal their identity and do bad stuff, the best way they could possibly do it is to pretend to be somebody else. So if they configure their IP address to be one of your home IP addresses, suddenly they're pulling all their traffic through your home, and we're talking here about the worst people on the planet, from murderers to child abusers, who are routing all of their content through your home IP address because you one day used a free VPN. And that's happening right now. We've detected over 200 million homes that have been compromised, and those IP addresses are for sale. But anyway, away from the scary stuff, back to some broadcasting of content. ITV, so public broadcaster in the UK, a lot of different viewers, and of course they wanted to secure some great sports content, and to do that, the rights owner said, well, you've got to block VPNs because we want to keep the value of the content strong between the territories that we license it. Great, they did that. But then they quickly realized that in fact, around 5 to 10% of all the traffic that was hitting the ITV player was pirate traffic. And these guys viewing the content were anonymous by nature because they're on a VPN. They could be anywhere. Yet ITV was there footing the bill to deliver the content and their ad partners to deliver all the ads, which were, for all intents and purposes, wasted ads because they have no idea who the users are or indeed where they are, so the ads are potentially entirely irrelevant. And when you're talking about something like 20 million people tuning in for a Champions League game, somewhere up to the region of 2 million people that you're paying to deliver all this content to, and they're bringing you nothing in return is a big deal. MultiChoice, very large broadcaster, I think the largest broadcaster in Africa, based in South Africa, same thing. So they wanted some premium sports content. They were told to block VPNs, which is great. They're taking a proactive approach. But then they realized around tens of thousands of viewers that they had every month were pirate viewers. And now they could just quickly block them and again save, well, in this case, a 6-digit number on their delivery costs through their CDN and reuse infrastructure that they were using for these illegitimate viewers for the good users and in fact double their capacity during a live game. And then one more example for me, which is Atres Media, given we're in Spain, in Madrid, our customer here, who unfortunately is not actually in Madrid this week, who's going to join us as well. They've taken another approach where, again, they're taking a proactive approach to block these users on VPNs who are essentially a burden and a cost to the service. But rather than just blocking them, when they see that you're on a VPN, they bring up this little window that says, we've seen you're on a VPN, would you like to subscribe? And then they offer them €5 a month, 50 euros a year to convert to a paying user. So they can still watch all the content that they want, that they love, but honestly, legitimately. And this has turned out to be a very positive ROI for Atres and actually converting all of those pirate viewers, who are obviously fans, into an honest revenue stream. But now let's turn over to Gosia to hear from the rights owner perspective.
Yeah, honestly, we didn't think at the Polish League, we didn't think that using VPN was so much harmful. But earlier this year, we had to deal with a situation that actually had us change our minds and change our position on VPN use. But to tell you this story, I need to provide some background information. So basically, I'll start by saying that the Polish top-tier football league, the Polish Ekstraklasa, is actually selling domestic and international media rights in-house. This happened in 2018 after the collapse of the MP and Silva agency. We created a team of 5 to successfully sell and tender the domestic media rights, and now we've completed the second cycle with the rights being with Canal+, who are broadcasting all of the matches live on their pay TV platform. If we might just go to the next slide, please. Okay, thank you so much. So what happens on the international market? So we successfully sold the rights to around 24 territories, but in October last year, we actually came together with 8 other leagues under the European Leagues Association, and we had Octagon, the New York-based agency, advise us on getting some international coverage, and we eventually signed a deal with 11 and 1 Football, which was quite beneficial to all of us. And Ekstraklasa itself actually has 2 or 3 matches every week available on both of those platforms. And here's where the story becomes interesting. On the left-hand side, you will see that in October, the deal with 11 and 1 Football takes place. Everything is fine. We're streaming matches live. We're getting revenue. Everybody's happy. However, literally overnight in April, we find out about FIFA Plus launching their platform. And it turns out that Ekstraklasa matches are also available on that platform via a sub-license from 11sports.com. And those 2 or 3 matches are available free of charge. There is no registration. It's a frictionless experience that you can just use a very simple VPN and access that particular streaming service with our content completely free of charge. And the target group is actually 200 million people globally. So unfortunately for us, the timing of that presence was affecting us quite severely, because at the very same time, mid-April, we were just about to launch the domestic media rights tender. And who did alert us to the fact that FIFA Plus is not blocking VPN? It's the domestic broadcaster who's telling us, guys, if you want to have that type of distribution, this is affecting our business model, because why should anybody pay €12 for the basic Canal Plus subscription in Poland while they can use a free VPN and access the same content on FIFA Plus without even having to register? So obviously this affected our situation quite severely. On an international level, we basically lost a little bit of revenue because instantaneously we've taken a decision to suspend signal delivery to both 11sports.com and FIFA Plus, just to make the host broadcaster happy, just to make them feel safer and more secure. And on the domestic front, the relationship with the broadcaster was, of course, affected, and we lost a little bit of credibility. But who would have thought? And to be fully transparent, the VPN blocking was not a contractual requirement under the FIFA Plus or the 11sports.com on OneFootball contracts. OneFootball do VPN blocking, and James and his company were actually the ones auditing the effectiveness of VPN blocking. So we're quite happy with continuing the business with OneFootball. However, with 11sports.com and FIFA Plus, unless the content is actually made available in the pay model, plus there is VPN blocking, we cannot continue the partnership. So it's to sum up, it's been a learning experience for the league. We should have been much smarter, I guess, but we did not foresee one of this the VPN blocking to be the lack of VPN blocking to be such a threat to our business and to the business of the host broadcaster, who's generating the biggest revenue for the league and the clubs.
The interesting thing with that use case is kind of self-policing, in that the different licensees around the world will be tracking their competitors, and if they start encroaching into their space, they're going to complain, and they're not going to be happy because they're the ones who've paid all that extra money.
Exactly so. And Canal Plus in Poland, they already have a dedicated team of 3 people who are actually actively following what happens where, if the content is being breached in any way or in any territory. So they were faster than we were in this case, and it's a little bit embarrassing to be completely honest for us to find this out so quickly. However, the case of FIFA Plus is so unique that basically everybody found out about the launch overnight. So I believe it was on Easter Friday or something that FIFA Plus released an official statement, and before that time there were literally there were confidentiality clauses in place banning everyone else from speaking about the service launching and what specific content would be available in there.
An interesting point, as you say, this was kind of a little bit of a shock or a surprise at the time, and a bit of a learning process. But I think that's probably true across the whole of the sports industry, compared to, say, the Hollywood industry, where VPN blocking has been on the agenda, it's been in the contracts for a number of years now. And in the sports world, it's creeping in. I think we're beginning to see it in more and more contracts, but it's not by any means across the board.
No, by no means. For satellite, there's encryption, which is easy. However, in the case of streaming services and content in general, standard geo-blocking is the usual contractual clause. VPN blocking, you very rarely meet it. And in the case of OneFootball, we were positively surprised that those guys are actually doing that and are conscious of the threat that VPN actually poses. And before I met James, I didn't even realize that using a free VPN was actually adding to illegal businesses of sorts.
Yeah, unfortunately, very true. So I think we did have one little slide just to kind of wrap up, but I think there's a big point here, which is, talking about contractual obligations, and as more and more rights owners kind of take that harder approach, as Goja and team have done, which is actually to remove rights if you're not going to play by the rules. You end up with a fairly heavy hand, and making people comply with rights is not always the best approach. So hopefully kind of what we wanted to illustrate a little bit, what I hope I've illustrated a little bit, is that there's way more than just complying with rights owners to keep monetary values in the places that they're supposed to be. Really, there's a whole ton of hidden piracy that's taking place, and all sorts of nefarious activity with dodgy people who are running their business off the back of something as simple as a VPN, which is, let's face it, a household term these days, with many, many people using them. So if we can stop blocking VPNs, we can stop quite so much piracy. We can reduce things like account sharing, account takeovers, and ultimately save costs in delivering all this content, because we all know how expensive it is to run a streaming service and deliver the content, the CDN bills, the DRM fees, the ad servers. It goes on and on and on. So if we can block out those bad users who aren't bringing anything to the table, hopefully the whole industry can generate a bit more incremental revenue. And I think that's us, unless we've got any questions.
A few questions, if I can. There's a couple there for you.
What do we do when we identify a streaming service promoting illicit content? Very good question. So this is often an infringement of copyright, or some streaming service will be very unhappy that they see their logo appearing next to an advert on how to basically abuse the restrictions. And usually it will be that streaming service's role or responsibility to raise it as a legal case and take some action against a VPN that may be promoting themselves. Generally speaking, the VPNs are pretty slippery. So if you go onto a VPN service directly, generally the big ones won't explicitly say or give a particular streaming service's name. It's usually that there's some comparison websites. So if you type in best VPN to watch X, those comparison sites will have every logo under the sun on their websites and actively promote how to bypass the various restrictions. And our job, I suppose, our role in that game is to track this and monitor it and alert not only our own customers, who are always subject to this, but prospective customers, let's say, that they are being heavily targeted for this kind of activity. And do we think adopting a fast model would help reduce the piracy threat? Well, if something is free to air, then there's probably not going to be too many reasons to pirate it. Having said that, if it's ad-based, generally you're going to want to have targeted ads. You don't want to just have a blanket ad for everybody around the world, because everybody has different tastes, different budgets. And if you've got people abusing that and viewing content from other places, then potentially your ad spend is wasted. So it may reduce piracy, but it's not going to help clean up how you spend or optimize your spend. Regarding your Atlas example, any idea what? I do have an idea, but it's confidential.
Right. Okay, thanks very much, Margherita and James. And